Ron Ross is on the line with us. He's an author, an economist, the author of The Unbeatable Market, writes over at the Spectator, spectator.org, the American Spectator. His most recent piece, Inequality in Perspective. Ron, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you with us. I'm a little baffled by this article where you say liberal thinking is all we need to know about life's fundamental unfairness. The heart and soul of liberalism is economic egalitarianism, making this a policy objective. Liberals never seem to take the effort to analyze or diagnose the sources of what they see as problems. Their concern rarely penetrates the surface. Liberals see income leveling as a cash cow. Do you really believe that stuff?
Well, yes, I do. I only write what I believe.
Are you familiar with the research that Richard Wilkinson and Kate Pickett have done over the last 30 years in the UK at the Equality Trust? They've written 2 books about it, Why Equality Matters and the Spirit Level. Their website's equalitytrust.org.uk.
No, I haven't read those. I've read several columns like the one I referred to in the article, in Mother Jones and places like that.
Yeah, well, I'm not talking about Mother Jones. I'm talking about real economists and real epidemiologists. Their numbers suggest that and they're looking at the OECD countries, and they graph out on a horizontal axis income inequality, and on a vertical axis a variety of indices, okay? And life expectancy, math and literacy, infant mortality, homicides, imprisonment, teenage births, trust, obesity, mental illness, drug and alcohol addiction, social mobility, sexually transmitted diseases. And what they find, and at the bottom of income inequality, of course, are Japan, Sweden, Norway, Finland, the Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, Switzerland, Germany, Austria, and Spain. And then at the top of income inequality is the U.S., and just slightly behind that, Portugal, the UK, and New Zealand. And what they find is that if, just looking at income inequality, if our country, if the United States, was to reach income inequality levels that are seen by most of the European countries, like for example, Germany, Denmark, Belgium, Finland, Norway, Sweden, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Spain, that our murder rate would halve, our mental illness would be reduced by 2/3, our obesity rate would halve, our imprisonment rate would reduce by 80%, our teen births would reduce by 80%, and our level of trust among people between each other and within society. And this is an interesting thing that I was on Fox yesterday about. 65% of Americans, 64% of Americans now say they don't trust big government. Our level of trust would increase by 85%. So, looking at the just core scientific evidence that unequal societies do poorly and more equal societies do better on these basic standard of life indicators, why would you be in favor of policies that make societies more unequal or against policies that make societies more equal, pretty much regardless of what they are, in the abstract?
Well, to begin with, I don't think that more equality would be the panacea that you're talking about.
I'm not calling it a panacea. I'm calling it reducing murder rates by half is not reducing them by 100%. That's not a panacea.
We'd have peace on earth, goodwill to men if we only had equality, more equality. And I'm not against equality, but one of the main lessons of economics, maybe the main lesson of economics, is that life consists of trade-offs, and that there is a price to pay if you just go towards equality without really having a plan or looking at what the the cost would be.
Well, we had a much more equal society in the United States during the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s when the top income tax rate was between 74% and 91%. When corporations were paying 35% of the total federal budget, now they're paying 8% or 9%. We had a much more equal society. And we have actually a petri dish here in the United States. And this is, again, research done. You can find it at equalitytrust.org.uk. I encourage you to check it out. This was done in the United States, state by state. And they're looking at just one index, for example, and I can give you, any of these that I gave you the list of before, but let's just look at education, for example. The lowest income inequality in the United States is Alaska. Okay, Alaska has the fewest number of very rich people and the fewest number of very poor people and the highest number of people in the middle in the United States. They also have the lowest number of people dropping out of high school. The highest income inequality in the United States is Mississippi. Mississippi has more people who are super rich and more people who are super poor and a smaller middle class than any other state in the United States. And Mississippi also has, while Alaska's high school dropout rate is 11%, Mississippi's high school dropout rate is 28%. And I can give you all the states in between, but when you put them on a scatter graph, you can draw a line right through them. Alaska is the most equal state in the United States, followed by Utah at 12%, very low income inequality and only 12% high school dropout. On the other end, below Mississippi is Louisiana with 25% high school dropout, another very unequal state. The most unequal states are Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, West Virginia, Texas, California, Tennessee, Arkansas, South Carolina, Rhode Island, Georgia, and Florida, and they all have high school dropout rates above 20%. The most equal states in the Union, where you have the fewest very rich people and the fewest very poor people and the largest middle class, are Alaska, Utah, New Hampshire, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nebraska, Vermont, Wyoming, Montana, Washington State, Maine, Idaho, Delaware, and Indiana, and they all have high school dropout rates below 15%. So just looking at a simple index like that, which is the best predictor of the future of our nation, wouldn't you say inequality is destroying the future of our country?
Well, I'm not going to argue that, and I'm not going to argue any of your data there. I think you're probably all that's probably correct. But so how do you do that? How do you make Mississippi more like Alaska, for example?
Well, I would do it by going back to the policies that we had, the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and raising taxes on the top, and having corporations pay their fair share.
What would you raise the top rate to?
Anything over 50%. History shows that when the top rate is over 50%, you don't have bubble economies, and when it's below 50%, you end up with bubble economies. So I think going back, I'd roll back the Reagan tax cuts. I'd take it back to 74%.
Well,
and then use that money to build schools in Mississippi.
When the rates were at 70% and 90%, hardly anybody paid that. That there were so many loopholes and so many tax shelters that those rates were basically fictitious. And the president's committee on the debt reduction advocated a flat rate of 23%.
But in 1960, the top 1% paid 42% of their average income in taxes. And right now, the top 1% pay 17.6% of their average income in taxes. So I'd say tax rates do matter.
Okay, and so you think that...
And I would cut that. But Ron, I'm sorry, we're out of time, and I didn't mean to nail you with the last word here. Please come back, and I'll give you the last word next time. Ron Ross, hang on just a second.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Dr. Ron Ross, Spectator.org. You can read his work. Ron, thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome.